Do your children go to school in Melbourne? Are you interested in how their school might be shaping them for the future? I'm Crystal, a regular Melbourne mum interested in all things to do with schools. In this podcast, I want to talk to the people in the education system in Melbourne, including parents, students, and maybe even some principals to get a better understanding of what goes on in schools and how they're shaping our kids. It's time to go to school on the Melbourne Schools podcast. Hi parents, welcome to the Melbourne Schools podcast. Today I have a friend of mine, Dexter, who is a dad of 3 kids, all of whom go to different schools. Mazenod, Avila and St Simon's, a Catholic primary school. Mazenod and Avila are both Catholic secondary schools that have a great reputation and come up all the time in the Melbourne Schools Facebook group. Today I'm particularly interested in Mazenod because it's a boys' school, which means I'm very unlikely ever to visit because I'm a mum of an only girl. Mazenod is an all-boys Catholic secondary school out in the southeastern suburb of Mulgrave in Melbourne. Dexter, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Crystal.
So to start off, just tell me about your kids, their ages or grades and the schools that they go to.
Yeah, so I have 3 kids. My youngest is in grade 6 and she's at St. Simon's.
Mm-hmm.
She is 12 years old. My boy is 14 and he is in year 8 at Mazenod.
Mm-hmm.
And my eldest is 17 and she is in year 11 at Avila.
Ah, cool. So you've got quite the selection of Catholic schools in the area.
Yes. And next year my youngest will be going to Avila with her eldest daughter.
Yep. So we're going to just chat about Mazenod tonight because I think maybe Avila will do in another episode. So how did you choose Mazenod?
Mazenod was on our radar from the beginning. My nephew went there. My wife's nephew went there as well. My cousins have gone there. I probably know at least a dozen people that have gone there.
Right.
From my age, so mid-40s, all the way to people that have graduated only a couple of years ago.
Oh, okay.
And all of the people that we know that have gone through it have turned out to be really nice, really nice people.
Yeah.
They've got their head screwed on. They're respectful. So Mazenod was high up there in terms of the schools that we were wanting to send our son to.
Yep.
St Joe's, I think, was the other option that we had. Both for single-sex boys' schools.
Oh, okay.
And
Whereabouts is St Joe's again?
What was that, sorry?
Whereabouts is St Joe's again?
Fentress Gully.
Okay. Yep.
So it's also close to us because we're in Rowville.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, I think we looked at Nazareth as an option.
Oh, yeah. Is that
co-ed.
Noble Park?
Yeah, Noble Park.
Yeah. Yep.
And we looked at Emmaus. So before my eldest started to go to Avila, so when she was in grade 6, we looked at the co-ed stuff first.
Mm-hmm.
And based off where she went would probably dictate where my son was going to go. Look, with all of the schools, including Mazenod and Avila, you're going to hear good stories and bad stories. It's just gut feel as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when my eldest went to Avila, then naturally it's like, oh, let's take a closer look at Mazenod, even though it was probably more of the school that we were going to go anyway, regardless of whether we were going to go with Avila or a co-ed school. So the reason why we chose that was because of it had a good reputation. We knew a bunch of people that went to it.
Yeah.
The stories that we heard of it, even the bad stories, like there were hardly any. Honestly, there's the odd one here or there. Access to public transport to get there from where I live. There were a lot more pros to sending him there than basically any other school, any other Catholic school. Yeah.
So it ticked a lot of the boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's quite unusual for someone to know so many people that come out of a school. Like,
yeah. It's I've grown up in Rowville pretty much all my life.
Yep.
And a lot of my friends are still within the area as well. So it's a case of where, my immediate friendship group was just basically Rowville Secondary, 'cause that's where I went.
Okay.
And being Filipino, it's you tend to hang around other people of the same kind of
It's a community.
nationality, same
Yeah.
same interests in music, and they happen to go to all of these other schools like
Oh,
Nazareth and
yeah.
Mazenod, and that's kind of how I started to know these people from other schools.
Oh, okay.
And on top of
So,
that, my wife's family, their son, their boys from that side went there as well.
did you say that your friends' kids also went there? Like, some of your friends' kids that went there?
There's people that I hang out with that went there.
Mm-hmm.
There's family on both
Ah,
my side and my wife's side that actually attended
wow.
Mazenod as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
I have a family member that actually works at Mazenod,
Oh,
and he
okay.
actually went to Mazenod as well.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay. So
so there's a lot of connections.
Yeah, so you know the school quite intimately. So through multiple generations, it seems like.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think that's quite unusual because uh from my experience and my friend circle experience, when we're choosing schools, often we don't know anyone from the school. And it's all hearsay, like you've got to find out a bit about the school culture and stuff by trying to, ask on Facebook, really. That's why people were
Yeah.
asking everybody else on Facebook.
Yeah.
To know so many people to come from the same school is really, it's really good. I mean, that's really ideal, the way that you should choose the school, I think.
Yeah, yeah. And look, we've been happy with pretty much all of our choices, really, from primary school to both the high schools now. And
Yep.
the only kind of caveat that we had with these schools is, if they fell in with a bad friendship group, then that would probably be the only impetus for us to actually remove them.
Yeah.
But we've had no issues. Avila's been really good. Mazenod has been awesome, and even St. Simon's as well. Even though my youngest is there for less than 6 months. All of my kids went there from prep to grade 6. So
In St. Simon's.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So your son's been at Mazenod for 2 years? Is that right?
He'll have to excuse me. I always get their ages and their years mixed up. It goes so
Okay.
fast. So I think I might have told a lie. I think he's actually in year 9 and doing year 10 next year.
Oh,
Yep.
right. So 3 years.
I think that makes sense.
So
Or it
he
could be the
started
other
in
ones.
grade 6.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah. It's tricky when they keep growing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Changes
so
every year.
he's been there at least 2 years, put it that way. Most likely 3. Yeah.
Okay.
And if my wife ever hears this, she's going to kill me. But it is what it is. Yeah. So he's been there for a while. He came over with a large group of friends from St. Simon's. And he still hangs out with most of them. And look, he still hangs out with his friends from primary school that have gone to other schools. But he still hangs out. He obviously still hangs out with the kids at Mazenod, and they're a great group of friends. So we're super happy with that.
Yep.
Education wise, it's been really good. No complaints really. The teachers are quick to pull him up in terms of if he's falling behind, or if he's slacking, or if he's not trying as hard as he should. They're quick to let us know.
Oh, okay. So they're pretty proactive, would you say?
Yeah. They're pretty proactive. We get emails a lot about test results, and I find that I'm probably more aware of what's happening with him at Mazenod than my daughter at Avila.
Oh.
Just because of all of the emails that I get. I'm just having a look at my phone now. We'll get test results. We'll get
really?
there's quite a lot of correspondence through email. So that's pretty good. And the parent teacher interviews, look, they're okay. A lot of it's happening through Zoom, and they only go for a couple of minutes, if that. I'm quite aware of where he sits educationally, and I'm different from other parents. I don't like to push him too much.
Yeah, you're
but
quite easygoing
at the same time,
parent.
if he's a bit slack, I'll let him know about it. Like we just, we received NAPLAN results. I think it was just the other day, and
Yep, for year
um,
9.
yeah, and he was actually quite good. It was
You sound
surprising
surprised.
because no, we were, because it's and he's always been the same ever since he was in primary school. Uh, and this just could be a boy thing, or it just could be just my son, but um, I think that he's capable of doing really, really well. It's just application to to want to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So when we received the NAPLAN results, we were like, "Hey, this is what we
He's
thought."
not doing.
But
He's not doing too
it's not like we
badly.
were expecting the worst. It's
Mm.
just, oh, okay, we're pleasantly surprised.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
so the education we've been pretty happy with. The school runs a lot of awareness based events, so things like bullying, cyber, um, dealing with your son, during during the later teenage years.
Oh, nice.
There's they run a lot of things, and
Yep.
it's they try and get things. Well, they're a bit more proactive from what I see than, say,
Yeah.
I'm not comparing him to Avila because it's a bit different, and I'm trying,
Mm.
and it's a comparison of a couple of years ahead versus a couple of years
Yep.
behind. But I just feel that I've attended more things with Mazenod than with Avila.
Yeah, like
So
parent
more parent
nights and
stuff. Yeah, they'll
information
get us to
nights.
come in to the gym,
Yep.
and they'll be talking about somebody, signs of bullying, or signs that
Yep.
your son
Yep.
might be a bully,
Oh, that's so
something along
great.
those lines.
Yeah.
So um, it's been good. Like
Mm.
we're super happy
Mm-hmm.
with how he's gone so far, the friends he's made, the education. We've seen the test results. We've seen the
Mm.
work that's been given to him. He could probably do with a bit more discipline, but that's us. In terms of being at home and doing the work.
Yeah, not so much
Pardon
the
me.
school.
Yeah, it's not so much the school. It's more so the
Yep.
school is giving him the work. It's really up to us to try and
Yeah, you're very
usher him to do
relaxed.
it when he should, instead of cramming it the night before.
Yeah, I think that's probably, many teenagers, not your son only.
Yeah, yeah.
So you'd say that there was quite a good community feel with the school? Like it
Oh
seems like,
yeah,
with like lots of kids from the surrounding suburbs that go there.
yeah, definitely. It's there's a lot of kids that go there. They're all the same. Being a Catholic school,
Mm.
um, it's very one-sided to Italians, Sri Lankans,
Mm.
Filipinos,
Okay.
a lot of the mainly Catholic types of nationalities that you would
Right.
see.
Yep.
There are obviously Australians there as
Mm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
but they're probably in the minority,
Mm.
um, and they all seem to get along fine. Like I said, Carson's group of friends. No, I just said his name. That's fine. his group of friends are great. I've met them. I've met their parents. They hang out a lot. They're at that stage now where they're wanting to do things on their own, ride their
Mm.
bikes, and I guess, like I said, that was the one thing that uh, would only make us change
Mm.
school is if they got into the wrong crowd. And thankfully, he hasn't. His friends are over a
They're
lot more
good
now, and he's
kids.
over at his friends. Yeah, they're really, really good kids.
Yep.
And I think between them, if there's anything that is going wrong at school, they can kind of talk amongst themselves about it initially, rather than,
And
say, try and approach us, because
support
they
each
might
other.
feel, yeah, because they might feel ashamed, or they might feel like, oh, I'm gonna have
Mm.
to ask this maths question again. So it's been really good, and
Mm.
seeing him grow up with his other friends and start to do things that isn't just sort of sitting in front of the computer. Look, don't get me wrong, they still do that,
Yeah.
but they're now at that age where they're a bit older, and I think all of the parents of his friends are now allowing them to do stuff. They're not,
Outside of without
outside
parents.
of the house, and then they can
Mm.
just go whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the stage now where he's getting a bit more confident with public transport, so he'll just hop onto a bus,
Yep.
with all of his friends, and they'll just end up at the shop somewhere.
Yeah.
So
Oh, it's so good that they live close by. I mean, I think that's a real benefit of
yeah,
having them in the same suburbs because they
Well,
can do that.
that's another thing as well. That's a good point, and a lot of people I don't think really think of that. It's
Mm-hmm.
with three kids, it's been interesting having to. And again, it comes down to your kid as well, and like what sort of friends they have, how many friends they've got. But the further you live away from the school, the more you drive around.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's hard because you'll have some friends that, they might live, 5 or 10 minutes away from the school. But if you're 15 to 20 minutes away from that school, like in say Rowville, then you have to drive them all the way there. And then
Yes.
you obviously want them to stay with their friends and hang out.
Mm.
So there's a weird period there before they can start catching public transport where you do a lot of driving around. There's
Mm.
parties and, there's a whole bunch of
Yeah.
stuff. And
But even like school stuff, like, going back to school
oh
for
yeah,
events and everything. Yeah, no, I've heard that. And I think that's something that's really not talked about enough. Because when
no,
I think when parents choose a school, they think, what about the results or the facilities or, so many other things. But
yep.
maybe the one close by is the best one.
Well, look, there's a lot to be said about that sort of stuff because so my eldest, she's working now. I think she's worked now for over a year, and she just works locally, and she's at Avila. So there are certain things where when you get to that age of wanting to work and you're catching public transport, there are those sorts of things that you have to think about where it's like, well, I can't start work until this time because the bus gets in at this time. It actually limits a lot of things because you're spending quite a lot of time like on a commute, either getting to school
Yeah.
or going home.
Yeah.
And that's just going home. In the mornings, it's the same thing. You might have to get up an hour earlier
Yeah,
just
yeah,
so that
no,
you can make it
absolutely.
to
Yeah.
school on time.
Yeah, but you're also very lucky though. Like, I mean, to have such a good school in your area and like, multiple good schools, it seems like, with
Yeah,
your boy and your girl in different good
yeah,
schools. I
yeah.
mean, I don't think all suburbs in Melbourne do have that. So there's an
No.
element of you living in the right place.
Yeah, yeah. And look, we're fortunate in that way. And I think even if we were a couple of suburbs out, there's a lot of Catholic schools, but we would then have to resort to services like yours to find out which school we would go to. Because again, it's always best to have information from people that go there. Quite recently as well, because like I said before, schools like Nazareth, they're perfect now, but they were like almost the pinnacle of schools within my area back when I was going through to school.
Oh,
You
really?
know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you can't ask a person that has gone to a school like 5 years
30.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has to be quite current, where it was
Yes.
like So yeah, we've been blessed, and even still, if those if Avila and Mazenod, if they weren't up to task, there's St. Joe's, Mater Christi is like the sister school to that. We
Yeah.
could have revisited Nazareth again. We could have looked at Emmaus, and they're still within, a single bus ride away. Not a single bus ride, but they're easily accessible through public transport.
Yeah. I think we're quite blessed. I think out in the east, where both of us live, I think there's
Yeah.
quite a lot of choice. And
Yeah.
as a parent,
Yeah.
you sometimes you get a bit picky about what you want in a school, but in fact, there's actually so many schools that are really good where we are. So back to Mazenod, what kind of school would you say it is? Like, is there a particular sort of dominant culture there? Like, would you say that it's an arty sort of school, or like sporty? Are your kids into one thing more than another?
It's a weird school in that I think many people associate Mazenod as a sporting school because, and this is going to get a bit confusing because I still get confused by it also. There are a lot of sporting clubs that have Mazenod in their name, yet they're not actually related to the school.
Oh,
because they might use the facilities as, say, their home ground or their home court. So we're like the Mazenod Volleyball Club, but they're not actually part of the Mazenod school, like they'll have like a girls' volleyball club. I think my
Oh.
daughter played volleyball there once
So
at one
they're
stage.
made up from people from the community. They're
It's
not actually
or from other schools.
Oh.
So it's a school that a lot of people know because of that
Those
fact.
clubs.
They'll be like, oh, you play for Mazenod. You're like, yeah, I play for Mazenod. But it's like, you go to the school? Like, no, not really. It's just part of the club.
Oh.
So it's known for that. For me, I put it I put it to the people that have gone through it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what my feeling is of the people that have actually graduated through there that I know, and a lot of them have gone on to do great things. So I can't say that it's just an academic school. I can't say that it's just a sporting school. Like, it's hard to.
So it's pretty much everything. They're pretty much supportive.
Yeah. Like, it's look, to be honest, I think it's easily one of the best boys' schools in the area, if not the best. St. Joe's is, again. It all comes down to
in terms of academics, or in terms of.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
just the best in general.
Yeah, look, I've had friends that have had their kids shift from one school to another to Mazenod.
Yeah.
And it could really come down to like a bad teacher at the old school. So I don't know what it is, but I just find that there are there's less drama with Mazenod.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's free from drama, but it's a school that you rarely hear anything bad about. Like, there's no issues with kids or teachers, and I'm not going to say it's going to be like that forever, but I tend not to hear as many things
like toxic masculinity issues.
Yeah, and look, my kids would tell me, because my kids tell me stuff about all the other schools, because at my age, my friends' kids are roughly the same age as well, and a lot of them still live in the same area, so we all talk. So they'll say stuff about that school and stuff about that school.
Hearsay.
So, and and it's usually first-hand experience, because it's like their daughter goes to that school and they're friends with that person. It's not like I heard on the grapevine. It's like, hey, this happened at school today because I was there.
Yep.
So it's and with Mazenod, there just isn't that many bad things. And my kids would tell me too. It's not like they're trying to hide bad stuff that goes in the school. Like, we have heard stories as well, but it's not as bad compared to what we've heard about the other ones. Yeah.
It does seem to fly under the radar a bit, I've got to say. It does.
Yeah, that's probably a good description of it. Yeah.
Because
that's kind of what you want, I think. Well, at least what I want. Yeah. Like,
you don't want it to be in the news, right? I mean, that's not.
Oh, no, definitely not.
Usually that's not a good thing when the school's in the news.
Yep.
In terms of. So yeah, we've heard a lot about what you love. Is there anything that you don't? Is there anything that you don't like about the school?
What don't I like about the school? That's a weird question.
Is there anything?
It's nothing that isn't just an act of, say, teenage rebellion in a way, and the same thing goes for most similar schools, whether it be boys' schools or girls' schools, like uniform policies, haircuts. I guess that.
Do you mean that they're strict, or they're not?
Yeah, they're quite strict.
Oh, they're strict. Okay.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of why the boys that come out of that school are the way that they are, because they are taught to be a little bit more disciplined, shake their hands, address people as Mr. and Mrs. And there's this for a better word, they're kind of groomed in a way so that once they come out through year 12, there's a level of respect there, is what I feel anyway. And that could be a good or a bad thing. I'd like it if there was a bit more. I'd like it if there was a bit more expression. Honestly,
they're very polite.
I feel that there's it stifles a bit of creativity, perhaps.
I don't know.
Interesting. I just like to, at certain ages, the kids are going to want to be who they are in a way, but then they're like, I've got to wear this uniform. I've got to tuck this in. I've got to have
Oh,
my
the
hair like
uniform, you
this.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
just everything
Yep.
really. But honestly, that's just such a tiny gripe.
Yep.
And I'm just sort of picking at straws. Like everything else is fine. The facilities are great.
Yep.
Access to it by public transport is perfect. Even driving there, it's close for me. It's like I really like as a school for my son. I really can't fault it. Look, even the fees, they're not over the top by any means.
Mm-hmm.
They're quite affordable, especially compared to say private schools, which
Yes.
are just a crazy amount.
Yeah.
Just trying to think.
That's okay. If you can't think of anything that you just like,
yeah,
then
look, nothing
there's
apart
nothing
from the things that you know about my opinion of school in general.
Yeah.
But no, as a school for what's available in the area, even if we were to extend the area out a bit more, we would still send him there. Yeah.
When you said before there is a bit of a would you say there was a bit of a culture of respect when the kids come out? They're quite respectful. Like, how do you think they've done that? Like, how do you think they've taught them that?
I think it is part of what I was saying before, how I was complaining about there's no creativity and they have, they're and I think that also comes down to things like I was saying, how I get a lot of emails from whenever he does a test. I pretty much get the results the next day. I'll be an email and it's like Carson has done this test or this test here, and I can click on it and see it straight away. So it's almost like there's not much waiting to find out. Like, firstly, if I didn't have that sort of awareness or exposure to his results, I wouldn't know what he's been doing. He could have done a dozen tests for all I know. And in some schools, I think most schools don't even send parents the results. It's just the assumption. So I could be sitting here thinking that he's not done any tests, but I know exactly what he's done because I'll get emails for it. And then I'll click on it, and then I'll say, "Hey, why did you only get like 40% on this test?"
So the poor guy, he's under a tight rein. It sounds like.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, and I think there's the way that that they're taught to address their teachers and shake
Like
hands.
how?
It's almost like, I wouldn't say it's like a finishing school, but they're kind of taught a lot of this stuff early on in
like
terms
what?
of how to talk to be respectful.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Were you saying that they all stand up or something when the teachers arrive? Yeah, I remember you mentioning that.
And they still carry that through to basically, the person that I know that works there, he's in his mid-20s now. He still does exactly the same thing, and now all the students do it to him, which is funny. Yeah, so it's
so it's pretty much ingrained into them since they were young, maybe.
Yeah. So it's a good school. It's a good school, and look, Avila being the sister school is just as good as well. It's just different sorts of exposure. Yep.
With that being a Catholic school, do you find that there's many non-Catholics that go there, or is it?
Yeah, there is.
There is. Okay.
Yeah. So, from what I understand, and again, I don't look too much at the curriculum. I'm just sort of going by what my eldest has said. When you get to a certain level of education with Catholic schools, it goes beyond just learning about, say, the Bible and God and that sort of stuff, and it starts to encompass everything else, like a lot of other religions.
Okay.
And just information about it. It's not telling you to like worship them or anything like that. It's just an overall
teaching you about other.
It's teaching you about it, teaching you about other stuff.
Yeah, that's a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's still there as a subject, but it becomes a lot more broad, and I think it then it doesn't alienate as many people that aren't religious or aren't Catholic or anything like that.
Okay, so there's a number. So you would say there's a significant percentage?
I would say,
or you're not.
I would have to say I wouldn't say it's like half or anything like that, but I would maybe say a third or a quarter.
Really?
It's the
Okay.
thing is, I'd probably err on the smaller side. There is
Yeah.
there is a process, like there's an ideal process to go to these schools, and it's not just Mazenod, it's like a lot of Catholic schools.
Yeah.
There's
Isn't that a hierarchy of
there's a
who goes in?
hierarchy. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're
A
a
feeder
feeder
school. Yep.
school, if you've got siblings that are already
Yes.
there, or you've had a relative that's gone through there, you know, if you are indeed Catholic, um, and so that could actually put a lot of people off in terms of sending their kid to a Catholic school that isn't Catholic. If they're there, it means that their parents went through a hell of a lot to try and get them there. Because usually
Yeah.
those non-Catholics are like, you know, I can't remember how many options it was. I was chatting to a friend whose daughter I think now goes to Emmaus, and she wasn't Catholic, but it was a lot of pestering the principal, and it was like, okay, well, she didn't fit any of this criteria,
But
and it
managed
was
to get
like,
in.
yeah, she managed to get in, yeah. So, I wouldn't say it's half. I wouldn't say it's you know, a third, like maybe a
There's
quarter. It could
some.
be
There's
less.
some. Yeah.
Yeah,
But there's
there are
definitely
some
some.
there.
Yeah. There's definitely
Yeah,
some non-Catholics. I think that's a question that comes up a lot because we hear a lot about these Catholic schools and they sound great, you
yeah,
know. But then a lot of us out there aren't Catholic. And is there
yeah,
any chance of getting in?
yeah, yeah. There is. Look, there is a chance, but you have to be persistent. From what I understand, and from what other people have
Mm.
told me, there's, you know, it's not a guarantee. Look, even if you make, even if you are, let's just say it's, there are 10 levels at which you can enter the school. Even if you're at the top 5, there's still no guarantee
Mm.
that you can get in. You know, you could have been naughty in primary school, or you know, there could
No,
be
and then they
something
let you
there that's
in.
stopping you from getting in. You know,
Really?
you're just not. It's just, uh, there's just more options available to you if you
If you are
start from,
Catholic
yeah,
and
if you
if you
start from the
are in a
top and go
feeder school,
down.
yeah.
Whereas if you're not, and you go,
Mm.
okay, well, now I have to start from, you know, number 7 and then work my way down.
How can you
Whereas,
possibly get in?
yeah, exactly. So, um, but yeah, look, it's been done.
Mm-hmm.
And even still, I think that, from the people that have, the kids that have gone there, the religious education is actually quite good, and it's not. They're not trying to turn these kids that aren't Catholic into Catholic.
Oh, okay.
Just it's just a subject at the end
It's
of the
not
day. They're
so
not
do
trying to
they go to
indoctrinate
church?
them.
They're not? Okay. They
Look, they still have to go. They still have to. You know that
do
I
they
don't
go to
know, but
church?
they do mass. Yeah, they do
Yeah,
mass
they
on
do mass.
certain days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, to be honest, I'd have to find out, because like my kids are Catholic, so I don't really know. Funnily enough, I'm not Catholic, so I don't know what they
Oh,
do when they
really?
go into church. No, I'm Christian. So it is a bit different for me. So I'd like to see what happens, with the non-Catholic kids. They might just, you know, they might just not participate because it's,
Oh,
um,
really?
maybe, I don't
Oh.
know. I'd have to double check. So
Yeah, interesting. I don't know. I would assume I'm not religious at all. I would assume if I went to a Catholic school, I would have to participate in everything. Like, I mean, it's really your choice, isn't it, to go to a
I
Catholic
think it is.
school?
Yeah, look, I think it is, and I'd have to ask my
Mm.
son that. It's actually a really good question, but I don't
Mm.
think it's. Um, I don't believe it'd be something that would be shunned either if they chose not to participate. I don't
Mm.
know. I don't think. Otherwise, they'd probably have a lot more strict, guidelines for entry. Like,
Mm.
rather, you know, if they say, well, if they're not at all, then it's like, well, why bother even coming here? We're not going to let you in, but they do let people in. So there's probably, you know, there's probably, ways in which they can participate, but not at a particular level. Like baptisms, if they're not baptized, um, you know, and I think that, the example I said before, I'm pretty certain her daughter wasn't, or at least she was baptized with, like in another religion sort of thing, maybe.
Okay.
So I don't know. That's a good question.
Mm. Oh well. Um. with I don't know if you would know this, but with like learning difficulties, do you know that
Mhm.
if there's much help or if there's many resources
Um,
with that?
the actual resources, I think, are really left to the parents.
Hmm.
My son he doesn't have learning difficulties or learning issues. He's probably got attention issues and motivation issues with certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So we do get flagged quite early on. Like, again, getting back to those emails, we do know, like, if he's done particularly bad in a test, we'll know.
Mm.
And that's for all tests too. So we know when he's done great in a test because we'll see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Do you find that they're
and
supportive though? Like, I mean, after he's
I think so. We've not had to go down that path of trying to rectify it with their assistance.
yeah,
Because
okay, yeah.
for us,
Maybe it's not such a big issue.
yeah, for us, I
Yeah.
think we were looking at it at one point, but it was more a getting advice from the teacher as to
That's it.
where he could improve or what he
Mm-hmm.
should improve upon. But then we were wanting to source it ourselves and not so much asking them. I think that had it come to that point, that they probably would have provided some information.
Mm.
But I don't know. Um, I don't know what other schools' policies are, but it almost would seem a weird sort of conflict of interest if they were then to try and push a particular service that's not actually part of the school. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I would have
yeah.
to I would have to say that there's probably a lot of inter-school support there, but then
In intra-school, you mean?
intra, sorry, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, intra-school support, and then beyond that,
Yeah.
they would probably say, look, have a look at your local tutors or something else to get
Mm.
additional support.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's hard to know as well. Like, I mean, I know that a lot of parents ask about this sort of thing, like, is there resources and that sort of thing, but I think it's difficult to know until you're actually there and you have a specific thing that you need. Like, can the school support that specific thing? Because every
Yep.
child will be different. Like, every child will need
Yeah.
something different.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
I don't blame you for not knowing.
Yeah.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you'd like to add that I've missed?
Let me see. No. Education, I'm quite happy with.
Mm-hmm.
Extracurricular stuff, I'm happy with.
Mm.
The friends, the support network, the teachers, from what I understand and have spoken to, have been great.
Mm.
The things that they get to do, it's all pretty standard fare. They go to the city. They do a lot of outdoor activities. They do beach stuff.
Oh, real beach stuff. Oh yeah, one thing I did
Yeah.
want to ask you, is there anything special in year 9? Because I know some of the other schools
Yeah,
have like programs and stuff
don't
in year
think
9.
no. It's a bit different. Like I think Emmaus have their own campus.
Yeah, that's right.
I think Avila have their own wing. Other schools, I know other schools like board out as well.
Yeah, some schools have boarding.
I don't believe Mazenod does anything, and I don't know whether I think maybe if it's a boys' school thing, I don't know, because I didn't know if St. Joe's does anything either.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Sometimes I mean, even just like those programs where they go to the city or
yeah. Well, they do that. I
they
know.
take them to the city.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So but from a year 9 thing, I don't believe there's anything specific.
Hmm.
And like I could be wrong. Maybe it could be
Maybe he hasn't done it yet.
a girl school thing. Because I know, what was that school? Was it Lauriston? I think Lauriston.
No, that's
year
my
9.
school.
Your school, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's when they bought out, right, for the entire year. Yeah,
Did I tell
yeah.
you about that?
You did, yeah.
Oh.
It's funny because I was telling you about that first because I had a client that did
Oh,
that
really?
with his daughter, and you said,
Oh,
"Yeah, I
right.
went there."
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so that's a bit extreme. Look, I can't complain about the school. The school's great.
Yeah, it does sound like a wonderful school with a wonderful culture. And
Yeah.
I think that's really important because your child is there every day, like, program or not. I mean, your child's in that school environment every day.
Yep.
And if they've got good friends and, great teachers, it sounds like, I think you're pretty much there.
Yeah, we've not had anything to complain about. And like what you said before is 100% correct. Like, it does fly under the radar. And even for us as parents, we do get those emails, and if the test results are pretty good, we don't really chase it up. We just look at it and go, oh, yeah, that's nice. It's we don't hear anything bad. We'll get emails about organizing a Father's Day thing or a Mother's Day thing, and that's kind of cool. That's kind of fun. But it's pretty low key, and as long as he's happy going there and happy. I'd probably say that most kids, I wouldn't say they're thrilled, but for him to wake up and make his way there and then come home and he's not like, oh my God, don't make me go back there again. It's, it's doing okay. It's doing its job.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, I think we've covered everything, Dexter.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for talking to me and spending the time. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. Remember that the content that you hear on this podcast is of a general nature and should not be used to make any decisions about schools or anything else. If you want to learn more about schools in Melbourne, make sure you visit the website www.melbourneschools.com.au. You can also join thousands of other parents in our community at Melbourne Schools Discussion Group on Facebook. See you there.